11th century. You are standing in the middle of the bustling and vibrant souk, browsing through the brilliant spice stalls and rolls of silk in Jerusalem. Beneath an atmosphere thick with frankincense smoke, Muslims, Jews, and Christians live together, peacefully sharing every drop of water from the ancient Gihon spring. But that peace will not last long. Just as in ancient history, this city has been and will always be the epicenter of brutal impending wars. Across the Mediterranean, the port of Venice is bustling with laborers, loading chests of gold and provisions onto warships bearing cross-emblazoned sails. Under the blazing sun, a monk blesses the Crusaders. Do you think the Crusades were purely a war for faith? Not at all. Beneath that dazzling religious cloak lay a multinational scale startup venture, a place where belief was weaponized into a tool, and the biggest beneficiaries were not the knights falling in the desert, but the banks thousands of miles away. Today we will strip away the holy facade to look straight into the gears of money, geography, and power that were crushing the Holy Land. Let's begin. 1071. The atmosphere in Jerusalem reeks of gunpowder. Nomadic Seljuk Turk warriors flood in, ousting the Fatimid dynasty. The Seljuks are devout Sunni warriors, overthrowing the Shia Fatimids, bringing sectarian massacres right into the heart of the Islamic world. The pilgrimage route from Europe to the Holy Land was choked off. This instability caused the cash flow from shopping and lodging travelers to abruptly freeze. Jerusalem's artisans, merchants, and innkeepers began to taste starvation. But the true seismic shock occurred hundreds of miles away, the Battle of Manzikert. In the far east of Anatolia, Seljuk cavalry crushed the army of the Eastern Roman Empire, capturing the emperor alive. The door to the Asia Minor Peninsula swung wide open, stripping the Byzantines of their vital wheat granary and human resources. Pushed to the brink, Byzantine Emperor Alexios I appealed to Pope Urban II for help, leading to the First Crusade, 1095. To mobilize, tens of thousands of knights lords sold their estates at a loss, and peasants mortgaged their properties to buy sword spears and war horses. The disruption of a tiny route in the Near East forced a colossal amount of money out of Europe, pumping it into a military machine cloaked in religion. Summer 1099. After 3 years of marching drenched in starvation and disease, the Crusader army stood before the towering stone walls of Jerusalem. The defenders had wisely filled in all the wells outside the city. In the 40-degree Celsius heat, the iron armor of the European knights turned into ovens, roasting them alive. Fresh water was more precious than gold. Thirst drove men to the brink of madness. And when the creaking wooden siege towers finally breached the northern wall on July 15th, that pent-up pressure exploded into a tragedy. The army, marching in the name of salvation, swung their swords, slaughtering indiscriminately regardless of age or gender. Over 70,000 Muslims and Jews were massacred. Blood flowed ankle-deep in the narrow streets. Holy sites like the Al-Aqsa Mosque and the Church of the Holy Sepulchre became giant graveyards. By wiping out the native inhabitants, the Crusaders reshaped Jerusalem into a pure Christian fortress. They planted vineyards on the Mount of Olives and established Arab slave markets right where communal spaces once stood. This was no longer a pilgrimage. It was a colonization project. Conquering a city with a sword is the easy part, but to rule it amidst a sea of enemies, you need law and money. The Kingdom of Jerusalem was born, lasting 88 years. The Frankish kings built magnificent marble palaces, wore Syrian silk, and enjoyed public bathhouses. They became Orientalized. But to govern a European minority amidst a native majority, they established a strict class system. French knights held absolute power at the high court haute cour. Native Christians, Armenians. Greeks became second-class citizens, working as interpreters or physicians. And the native Muslims and Jews. They were pushed to the outskirts burdened with heavy taxes and broke their backs tilling the fields. Exploitation was scaled up on the plantations. Taking advantage of the Levantine climate, Italian merchants established massive sugarcane plantations in Acre and Tyre. They used Arab serfs as labor to cultivate extract sugar and export it back to Europe at exorbitant prices. Does this sound familiar? A group of white people arriving in a new land, utilizing native labor to produce cash crops for export. This was the direct prototype of the slave plantation model that would be brought to the Americas centuries later. The Kingdom of Jerusalem was the very first model of Western colonialism. The corruption of the kingdom did not escape the eyes of contemporary intellectuals. Archbishop William of Tyre, in his Chronicles, criticized the moral decay of the Holy Land's nobility. He warned that the despicable schemes of the lords were pushing the kingdom into the abyss. And while the knights were busy slaughtering, who were the beneficiaries? They were the Italian maritime republics, Venice, Genoa, Pisa. The Kingdom of Jerusalem had no navy. They depended entirely on Italian ships. In return, Italian merchants were granted autonomy tax exemptions and a monopoly on transporting spices and silk from Asia to Europe. The Republic of Venice quickly rose to become the wealthiest commercial empire, accumulating a colossal mass of capital that would later give birth to the Renaissance era. But the most astonishing economic breakthrough came from the Order of the Knights Templar. To protect pilgrims from being robbed of their gold, on the way to Jerusalem, they invented an early international credit system. A French noble could deposit gold in Paris, receive a cryptographically encoded piece of paper, and upon arriving in Jerusalem, withdraw the equivalent amount. From sword-wielding crusaders, the Templars unwittingly became the first multinational bankers. They established a financial credit network that transcended national borders, completely altering how money circulated in Europe. But sugarcane plantations and marble palaces could not save an empire that was cracking from within. The factional divisions and moral hollowness that William of Tyre had warned about were fully exposed. In the summer of 1187, at the Horns of Hattin, the fate of the Kingdom of Jerusalem was sealed. The legendary Muslim general Saladin tricked the main Crusader army into marching into the desert to face thirst and the blazing sun. The main army was annihilated. Jerusalem now lay exposed and vulnerable in the middle of the desert, devoid of defensive forces. The cross that had flown for 88 years was preparing to be lowered. Would the stone walls of the holy city once again be dyed red with blood, just as they were 88 years ago? In Episode 2, we will witness a lesson on the tolerance of the victor and how the Mamluk slave warriors used waqf to transform Jerusalem into an eternal architectural museum. The history of Jerusalem is not yet closed. Subscribe to the channel and stay tuned for Episode 2 to witness the miraculous resurrection of this city.